From playing around with yet another gun on his Instagram Live to leaving everyone in the gray regarding his return, here's how Jaren Jackson Jr. reacted to Ja Morant's irresponsible behavior. Guys, Ja Morant better have his lawyer on speed dial, because the 23-year-old player has caused quite a stir yet again. And yes, it's because of another gun controversy. Now, while everyone's adamant on a strict disciplinary follow-up, his buddy Jaren Jackson Jr. has taken a completely different route. In fact, he's even trying to justify Morant's actions. Can you even imagine that? The Memphis Grizzlies star said that the team is all about having each other's back, but is that really a good thing? Especially in this case. I'll be getting into that in just a bit, but first let me set the scene. Picture this. Ja Morant and his buddies speeding around in a car in an Insta Live. That's already looking like a recipe for disaster to me. But hey, why don't you go ahead and add a gun to the mix? That ought to make things interesting, right? For all the wrong reasons. Let me just add this here. This is the second time Insta Live has been the downfall of this young player. He might want to avoid that from now onwards. On the 13th of May, the Memphis Grizzlies guard was seen throwing caution to the wind with his two buddies, one of which was a gun. You can imagine how things spiraled downhill from there. The Grizzlies wasted no time responding to this mess, saying that they were aware of the situation and conducting an investigation. Now, what do you know? Soon after, Ja found himself on the receiving end of a suspension. According to the official statement, he is suspended from all team activities pending league review. Ouch, that ought to sting. Ja's return is still under speculation, but one thing I can tell you for sure is that this is strike two for the young player. I am sure you know that this isn't his first rodeo in terms of Insta Live disasters. Remember the March incident, anyone? That one featured Ja in a nightclub loosely waving around a gun, which he later claimed belonged to a friend. As a result, the league slapped him with a suspension of 8 games, costing him over $600,000 in salary. You'd think he'd learn his lesson after losing all that green, but apparently not. The young player responded to the March incident by taking full responsibility. At the time, he had also confirmed that the gun wasn't his. I wonder what he's got to say about that this time around. What's more is that the player previously took some time away to get help. We all know how that turned out. Only 2 months later, the same thing was repeated, which begs the question, does this even mean anything to Ja? With many players shaking their heads in disappointment over the 23-year-old's behavior, his Grizzlies buddy Jaren Jackson is stepping up in his defense. No surprise there, am I right? But Jaren took it a step further. He's not only putting his weight behind his teammate, but also justifying him. The player confirmed that the Grizzlies stood behind Ja during this tough time, and that there was a simple enough reason behind him acting this irresponsibly. Can you guess what it is? Ja's young age is here to take the blame again. Jaren recently appeared on Paul George's podcast where he said, "Growing up with this much attention on you is a lot to deal with, especially when you're so young." Jaren does make a compelling case, but can we really let Ja off the hook that easily? That's a big question mark. I mean, yeah, the kid's famous, but how much longer until it's too late for Morant? Jackson needs to take all of this into consideration. The player thinks that Ja is the most popular player for his age, probably ever. So the public needs to cut him some serious slack. After all, he's only growing up, and that's bound to be accompanied by a mistake or two. Jackson also said that the situation for Morant was insane, and people expected him always to act a certain way, which is impossible for the young star as he's only human. Let me just say this, Jaren is also 23. He also grew up in the spotlight, but I don't see him waving around any guns. Coming to his relationship with Morant, Jackson thinks of the guy as his brother, and no matter what happens, he's gonna stand by him through all of this. A pretty sweet thing to say, that's for sure. Jaren also mentioned that during this time, haters are gonna hate, but when it came to his family, he's gonna shake it off. Well, he didn't exactly quote Taylor Swift, but you get the point. Jaren told Paul George, "That's my dog, so I'm gonna ride with him." As for the player's future in the league, his buddy is sure that Ja would pick it up right where he left off. As soon as his suspension was over, he's gonna get back to the court and run the league. Jackson said, he's gonna get back to jumping over everybody. You know, like Ja always does. The Grizzlies star also pointed out that Morant works harder than anyone else, and he already knows that he'll be coming back with a bang. So this little involuntary break wasn't that big of a problem for him. But with the continued problematic behavior, I'm not sure for how long the young star will be able to get away. From the looks of it, Ja seems pretty remorseful that all this happened. Again, he said, "I take full accountability for my actions." He also commented on how he disappointed loads of people who had supported him since March. Was there a way of avoiding all this? I don't know, you tell me. The player also mentioned that it was all a long journey and that he still had loads of work to do. He got that right. Ja knows that his words don't have a whole lot of credibility, especially right now. But he's committed to doing the work and improving himself little by little. That sounds pretty promising to me. Let's just hope he stays off of Instagram this time around. Coming to the player's return, Silver confirmed that they looked deep into the player's history when reaching the decision. It has been confirmed that Ja will be suspended for 25 games in the upcoming season. The commissioner made it clear Ja needs to stop his alarming habits of flashing guns on social media. He went on to state that a suspension of 25 games is appropriate and makes clear that engaging in reckless and irresponsible behavior with guns will not be tolerated. Silver's reaction to the gun was pretty serious back in March as well. He labeled it potentially very dangerous. Previously, Adam was highly concerned about the effects it would have on the player's younger following, and I'm afraid that his worst fears have become true. Did you know that there were rumors going around that the gun Ja was waving around was actually a toy? But even that didn't ease up the situation for Silver. The NBA commissioner thinks that it's not about disciplining the player anymore. Because let's be honest, guys, we can't just sit and pray that Morant won't do this a third time. And that's exactly what Silver thought. He suggested that Ja should enroll himself in a program that could really help him out when dealing with this problem. Silver also commented that it was high time the young player changed the trajectory he was on currently, which is definitely not a positive one. The commissioner also wants everyone who's close to him involved in this journey, whether it's his pals, his team, or even the union in the league office. Everyone needs to play their role in making sure Ja can pull himself out of the quicksands that are pulling him down. And guys, don't worry. This suspension isn't forever. Jaren Jackson and co. will get to play with their brother once again. Silver confirmed that Ja won't be kicked to the curb. Of course, no one would want to see that happening to a player with tons of potential. Silver also said that he wanted to find a way through all of this. In order to do that, basketball is going to have to take a backseat for the player. That I totally understand, because any long-term development here is going to take quite a lot of time. Silver commented that their main goal is to focus on him as a young man developing as a better person, as someone who is more responsible. It's clear that the commissioner himself is going to be actively involved in the process. So maybe this time around, things will work out for the best. Jaren Jackson Jr. won't have to stay away from his buddy in future. But if such an incident does occur again in the future, I'm afraid that's going to be the end of the line for the young prodigy, Ja Morant. And there you have it, from leaving everyone in the gray regarding his return to brandishing yet another firearm in public. That was all for Jaren Jackson Jr.'s reaction to Ja Morant's irresponsible behavior.